I'd like to welcome everyone to another CMC podcast. Today we're continuing on our series with interviews with the GRIMP North America 2022 teams. And joining us today, we have Orange County Fire Rescue from Florida. So Ryan, want to say hi and introduce your team?
Yep. My name is Ryan Allen. I was the team captain for the Orange County Fire Rescue team. And with me today, I have Evan Pech, who is our rescuer, one of our rescuers. I have Jeff Hansen, who is another one of our rescuers. And Jeff Hansen was on the rigging team, I'm sorry. And Chris Ramey was also on our rigging team.
Excellent. Thanks. So why don't you tell us a little bit about Orange County Fire Rescue?
Orange County Fire Rescue, we are located in the Central Florida area. Probably most people would know us from Disney World. We kind of surround Disney World and Universal and all of that. Our department is now 43 stations, so a pretty big department. And the members of the GRIMP team, we are all members of our what is called a Rescue Climber team. And the purpose of the Rescue Climber team is we were put together in 2015 when they built a 400-foot observation wheel sort of in our middle of our tourist district area. And they needed a rescue team for this with some specialized training. So they basically took all the rope techs that are within our different disciplines, our squad companies and our truck companies, and did a test and provided extra training to train on this giant observation wheel. And with that training, we were able to start taking sprat classes and all that, and kind of opened up a lot of our rope knowledge from the traditional NFPA style to more of a combination of a bunch of different disciplines into that. And that has kind of formed our rescue climber team. And so we do basically theme park rescue is kind of what we specialize in.
That's got to be pretty challenging because you guys have a lot of variety of theme parks in your area.
We do. We mostly Disney World has their own department, and Universal is covered by the city of Orlando. But we have SeaWorld and a lot of private rides that are around the Central Florida area, as well as a bunch of new stuff coming from some other theme parks coming up here soon. So it keeps us very busy with the theme parks.
Oh, very good. It's got to be interesting. So what got you guys interested in participating in GRIMP North America?
That would probably be my fault with that. I heard about when the first GRIMP North America happened. I think I saw the post on Facebook with the drawing of the two guys and the gear high-fiving or whatever, and I clicked on the link and read about it and thought, oh, this sounds pretty cool, and talked about it to the guys. I don't think at that point we were at the place yet to necessarily participate to get everything ready logistically, and I was right, because this was a lot of logistics in getting this event together. But it was, for me, the biggest reason I wanted to do this was sort of a proof of concept. We've been doing all this training, taking a bunch of classes, and wanted to see if what we're doing, if we're on the right path. You know, being put in a situation where we have to do some kind of rescue, you know, I can think up scenarios all day long, but when I show up somewhere else of somebody who I've never met before and they give me a scenario, and if we're able to perform, that's what I wanted to see, was kind of a proof of concept. Jeff, what was your thoughts on it?
Well, I didn't really think that we were going until Ryan's like, oh yeah, I put in our application, we got our team together, and then he's like, oh yeah, by the way, we're in, and then that's when it really started to hit home that we need to get going, get geared up and ready to go.
Yeah, I think Chris, you thought the same thing, right?
Yeah, I was pretty much the same way. When we first started talking about it, I really didn't think we had a shot in the park. To be honest with you, it was like, yeah, sure, go ahead, let's do it. Then, just like Jeff said, all these, like, hey, by the way, we're registered, we're in. I was like, well, okay, I guess it's really going to happen now. So let's button down the hatches. Let's get going.
Oh, very cool.
And then I'd also probably thank, Mark from Ronin and all those guys. I've taken a few classes with them, and they're the ones that definitely got me interested in it. And and at the same time I was hearing about GRIMP North America, I think a few weeks later I started hearing, rumblings from Mark about, hey, this is something that is kind of all over the place. And I was like, oh, so this is a thing. This is pretty cool. So.
Oh, very good. Yeah. The Ronin guys are very big into competition. I know they were just over in Spain.
Yes, I was watching that. That looked awesome. Seemed kind of hot though.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the way it looked. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So, have you guys participated in any other competitions at all?
No.
Okay.
Did like
so first one, huh?
Before this.
Okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't even told you this was the thing until we heard about it.
Okay. So, what did you guys do to prepare then for the event?
That was sometimes difficult trying to get all 5 of the main team and our victim and everybody and our evaluator together all at the same time was sometimes difficult, but usually we had at least 3 or 4 at a time. And a lot of it was at the local fire academy, kind of taking, different ideas of scenarios. We knew it was going to be confined space involved. So I think one of them, we set up like a confined space obstacle course in one of our firefighter, confidence mazes, and basically said, hey, let's go up, down, through here, and, set up a vortex here, and here, and did it that way. And then definitely some high line practice. We knew there's probably going to be a high line involved, so we better get that dialed in. Jeff, what did you think about the training?
Training was good. Like I said, we had very minimal exposure to a vortex. So when Chris came, said he was on the team, he had vast knowledge on the vortex, so we kind of got a crash course, if you will, dealing with that thing. But I think we did all right with it.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
Yeah, really, we only had the one scenario with the vortex, but I think one of the benefits that we had was all of us on our team, we all went to the North Carolina, and we did training there with Eric Strout and his team. So I think that alone kind of helped prepare us to be able to do a competition like this. Because I was in the Navy, but most of these guys had never really seen a Navy boat before until we did training up in North Carolina. So that kind of helped prepare us for what we need to do. Then most of us, we all teach together as instructors. So, we understand how scenarios go. We understand how time crunch is a big issue. So I think that was what kind of helped drive us and be prepared for this. Like you said, we, the 3 or 4 of us at a time, we'd get there together and we'd shoot it. We're like, hey, let's try this, let's try that, let's see what we can have. And then we actually timed ourselves to see, where we're at as far as how the scenarios were driving. But that was fun.
Yeah. A lot of in the evenings after working somewhere, it was like, hey, when you're done with your training or whatever you're doing, hey, just meet us over at the college and, watching the sunset from the top of the tower, a lot of that.
Or during an advanced reading class when we're hanging off the scoreboard.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, I think the week before was we were teaching an advanced rigging class and kind of, in between scenarios, we were kind of going off to the side and like kind of setting up stuff for ourselves and, while they were doing lunch and everything like that, because we had some different locations that we were able to go to.
Well, that's awesome. Well, it sounds like, too, you guys have a really well-rounded background with, traditional NFPA, rope skills, Sprat, and then the specialty stuff you guys picked up on the North Carolina then.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I think on our team, we had Chris. Chris is a level 3 Sprat, as well as Evan. I'm a level 2, and then everybody else on the team was at least a level 1. So that was definitely beneficial. And, confined space tech, and all that. Industrial fall protection, like climbing with lobster claws is definitely not out of the ordinary for us, for sure.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, that the wide-ranging background definitely served you well in some of these scenarios.
For sure.
So that's going to dive into that. So we'll kind of start out up at the top, the more visible ones for that everyone could actually see you here, the room with a view. So what were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that was the ascending one. That was actually our first scenario, strangely enough.
Oh, okay.
Where it worked out, that was our first one. I will say, me going into that, I was nervous that day, very much. Woke up nervous and everything like that. The guys were keeping me calm and everything. But the moment like the scenario started and I got my hands on rope, everything felt a little bit better. But I got my rescuers up right away, up the ropes, setting up we actually set up an additional line next to the other ropes, so we had so we could bypass that knot to increase our speed as we went. And Jeff, you were on the ground. What were you?
Okay. Yep. So I was in charge of making sure that the Stokes basket got hooked up with the taglines, things like that. Getting all the equipment that we didn't use down to the floor that the box was in, and basically hauling gear, making sure everybody stayed off the wall.
Yep. Yeah, we ascended up, got all of our everybody but Jeff up to the top. Sent down. We just did a sort of a mirror or twin tension lower from the top down, and then had a tagline on it. Pretty simple setup. Chris, you were up there. I think you were right behind me on the way up. What did you think?
Yeah, I was the last rescuer up. Once I got to the top, me and Donnie, you guys were packaging the patient, but me and Donnie were the muscle to pick her up and then transfer her to the side while Evan started working down. No, I enjoyed that one. That was one of my favorites.
If I recall, you were pretty much on my heels.
Yeah. One of the instructors that was there, he said the same thing. He's like, man, for an old guy, you move pretty fast.
Yeah, you were right on top of me. And I was like, oh, there's Chris. I better hurry up.
No, that was one of my favorites. I thought it was challenging enough, but it was fast and it was fun. And I think with all of us have really strong competitive natures, I think that one was like right up our alley, especially starting out right from the get-go. It was just fun. Everybody was in the limelight, so everybody could see what you're doing. It was just like go, 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 go. That was one of my favorites.
Yeah, it was a great way to start the competition. It was very good. I think I felt we did really good on that. So it was a good way to start to get rid of the butterflies and all that. And I would be remiss to not speak of our side-by-side competitors from Peak. Micah and those guys were freaking awesome. I couldn't have picked a better group to go head to head with. I met Micah at Eiders last year, and it was really good when we heard we were competing head to head. That was awesome. That to do that together, to be the two team captains. When you got a guy next to you as your competition, is pretty awesome to do it that way. It's pretty cool.
And especially when and like some of those scenarios where you could see each other, I'm sure
yes.
that has a tendency to drive you a little faster then, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. They pushed us, and I hope we pushed them a little bit too.
So as long as we're up on top of the ship here, let's talk about the stacks. That was the other real high profile one there.
Mm-hmm. The stacks. I think Jeff can talk about the stacks for sure.
I'd rather not.
You'd rather. I think Jeff can talk about the stacks.
Push him out the door while you're at it.
Yeah. Tell us about the stacks, Jeff.
No, stacks is good. Very tight quarters getting out. Went down, had no problem with the lobster hooks. Got up top, set an anchor for the one side of the high line, and then for some way, I guess I tied a munter hitch in the air, and it got wrapped around part of the structure. And I spent 35, 40 minutes.
Yeah, it was like 15.
No way.
I timed it. It was like 15.
I spent a lot of time trying to untangle that. I tried to go down, and that part of the structure was out of place. So there was one of two things to do: either cut the rope and work off the other end, because our rope bags were designed and packed so we could work off both sides. It's either cut the rope, leave equipment, and lose points that way, or I just time out.
Yeah.
But somehow I gave it one last tug, and it flipped the munter over so I could pull through, and I pulled all 100 feet through.
Oh yeah.
Oh jeez.
Every bit of that 100 feet through.
Yeah, Jeff was on the far side of the high line, so he was by himself on a very, very skinny catwalk, and then some of the extra rope had got it looped down a little bit and had wrapped something on the structure there, and then it made a freaking munter hitch. It was pretty impressive.
Yeah, it was awesome.
But he was able to, reposition himself and pull all that through. But everything up to that ran real smooth, and once he undid that, it was really lucky because we pulled the lines and everything came up perfectly. Nothing was twisted or anything like that. And it ran completely smooth after that.
Oh.
So we were able to still finish the scenario. And I think we were like an hour and 15 minutes in that. So we still had plenty of time.
Oh, wow.
But that was our one major snafu through the entire event. And that was our very last event too, was the High Line. So, we're like, we're doing really good. And then that happened. And, but we were able to recover from it. And I was really happy with it. I know, Chris, you were working the anchor on my side. I could barely see you, but I knew I pointed and I said, I need the ropes right here. And that's where they were. So you want to talk about your part over there?
Well, like you said, it was hard for me to see as well because I was on the backside of one of the stacks. I could literally see his backside, and that's all I could see. And he said, "Hey, I just need the lines run through here," so I set them up the best I could. And then I had to tension them all by myself, so that was interesting to do by myself. But we got it done, and right before I tensioned it, he's like, "Stand by, we got a rope issue. We're trying to work it out." And I could hear him talking over the radio, talking to Jeff, say, "Hey, man, just work it out, encouraging each other." And you got it done, man. We still beat time. And then once we got it tensioned and the line was over, then it was like balls to the wall. Get everything over the side, quit when we were just throwing stuff left and right, trying to get everything down, but in a neat way that where we weren't causing any issues. But yeah, that was a challenging one. That was fun.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like, you could probably never even be able to do a munter hitch in midair like that if you tried, right? Again.
No, never.
Yeah.
Nope. I've tried.
Yep. It was impressive.
So just out of curiosity, what kind of reeve did you guys use to solve the problem?
We did an English reeve with a single rope with ASAPs as backups.
Okay.
Yep. So a single rope reeve through that. It worked really well. And Chris was able to haul that reeve up by himself. It wasn't too hard. So while he was hauling our patient up, I was actually running the control, pulling the patient towards us. So it was kind of us working in tandem together. And I would be remiss to say, not mentioning our patient, Megan Hoover, who was a champ throughout this whole event. She was great. No, not one bit of complaining. And I know we had her in some very strange, places in that ship, and we were able to get her home without any scratches, which was good. So, but she was definitely a trooper. And our evaluator Ronan is actually now her husband. So we had to make sure that she was good for their wedding because they had their wedding when we got back. But he was
yeah.
And he was the evaluator for the other side on the high line. So everybody was kind of on that one. It was good.
Oh, that's neat. Yeah. So much for the real high profile stuff. We'll kind of head down to the bowels of the ships now, down in the catacombs.
Yeah, that one was super easy. I was right behind Evan. Evan was lead, and as soon as Evan hit the hole, he's like, "Go, go, go, go!" And I was just on his tail. I mean, I think we got to her probably like 5 minutes, and packaged her up really quick. And as soon as I turned around, the other two guys were right behind me, and we just started doing like a little pass through. Started jumping through the hole, and I happened to look over to my left hand side, and I saw a peak, and I was like, "Let's go!" And that was it. It was just we just started shoveling her through the hole as fast as we could. Yeah, that was a fun one right there. It was quick, but it was really fun. It was actually so quick that I was like, "This is it. We don't have to do anything else." I was almost kind of flabbergasted.
Yeah, I started sending them in, and they're like, "Hey, she's right here," and I'm like, "All right, start giving me your stuff. We don't need it." Started shoveling stuff out and going, and just being like, "Okay, all right, you don't need anything. Let's go. Come on."
It was kind of that particular scenario was actually when we went back to the ship looking at, scoping it out for another GRIMP competition. The ship's crew had actually found that and said, "Hey, we watched what you guys did last time, and we thought you guys might be interested in this. You want to check it out?" And when we saw it, it's like, "Oh man, this is kind of an interesting problem, and as you guys saw, it wasn't technical at all. It was all teamwork based.
Yeah, definitely.
We lucked out because Megan, she's on the taller side, so she could span that whole couple of those gaps. So it was a simple hold her here, go next hole. It was really good.
She spanned I think 3 baffles at one point, just with her hands out and completely pointed out or sprawled out on that sked. She covered multiple baffles at the same time, so that was definitely an advantage.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of funny because some of the teams had some, shall we say, sizable victims, some girthier victims, and it was a little tougher for some of them, and others had very, very small, that they met their weight requirement, but not by much,
Yeah.
So
Yeah, there was one spot I know it was in between two baffles, and there was a pole, so you kind of had to go in like a U shape with the patient. That was the only one going in. I was like, oh, that's gonna be the tough one, but these guys rocked it. And I was more just coordinating the guys through it and putting them where they needed to be, but they worked really good and getting her through very quickly. That was awesome. That ended our first day, if I recall correctly. That was the end of our first day.
Oh, yeah, that's a nice way to top off the day, yeah.
Oh yeah.
So let's head up to Broadway. So that was your
Broadway.
vortex scenario.
Yep. Actually, Evan just joined us again.
I'm back.
Yeah, I didn't really. None of us really saw Broadway, so it's perfect that you're here.
So-
You can tell us about that.
Broadway was
The vortex scenario.
the vortex. So that was one where Donnie and I both went in.
Yep.
I was first rescuer on all the events, and Donnie backed me up on all the events. I went in, and Donnie actually made patient contact when we got up to where Megan, our victim, was. And when he made patient contact, I basically started looking for points inside the area. And one of the good things about the way that we've been trained and have been training with ourselves is that at any one point, we could all do any position within everything we've been doing. So I had enough gear with me that I found a random shackle that was able to be used and made our 2 points of contact off of that big shackle that was sitting there, and just made points to be able to lower her out and through, and then over and up through the vortex system.
Yeah, I would say that one, and that kind of brings up a good point, is when we every single time, especially in the confined space scenarios, when we brought up our patient, was we had a guy ascend rope almost every single scenario we had, and even the catacombs, like ascending next to our patient.
Yeah.
And that for us, that just showed how useful that was in maneuvering the patient around there and not putting extra pressure on the system by having two people. But people a lot of the times will say, oh, I don't need to learn how to ascend. You never ascended rope. But in this event, we ascended every single scenario except the catacombs, in which we didn't even use rope. So definitely have a foot ascender on you if you're going to ascend in a confined space. It helps a lot. But yeah, that was awesome.
And then the knowledge of your equipment to know where you're able to place it in order to compress yourself more if need be.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like using the foot ascender or moving your descender to maybe your sternal if you have to. If you just can't be in that seated position, you need to go down in a fully vertical position. Or building the Stokes basket in such a way that you could easily go from a horizontal to a vertical without needing 75 extra pieces of connection.
And Chris, the vortex setup, if you want to talk about that, it was pretty basic that we did.
Yeah, it really was. I mean,
Okay.
the three of us set it up in no time at all. It was just an easel setup. With the hole being offset a little bit, we just set up an easel and just rocked it forward as tight as we could get it. Set it up, and then the transition out of the hole was the biggest issue. There was a bar in the way of the holes, and she was
Yeah.
So when she was coming up, we couldn't go completely straight vertical to the head of the vortex. So what we ended up doing on the back wall, I rigged up an Aztec and just slung it right down to the head. And we basically just had 2 points. And as she was bringing up, we just transferred from the vertical here to the backside and just rocked her underneath the bar, and it slid her right out. No problem at all. Just using an Aztec. But she stayed on 2 points the whole time. So it was stupid easy.
Oh,
Just like Evan said, if you know your equipment, it's not that hard to be able to deviate off of what your normal is.
yeah, that bar was not at all anyone's friend, that's for sure. So,
Yeah.
just out of curiosity, then, what kind of system did you use to bring her up that escape shuttle? Then was it just like a drop loop 4-to-1s? What?
Yeah, we carried with us the whole time a 200-foot rope that we had pre-set up in a like a 4-to-1 block and tackle,
Mm-hmm.
and we used that on that scenario, and it worked out really well. And each one of us carries a 50-foot section of rope, which was very beneficial. I think our 50-foot sections of rope we used more than our 300-foot sections of rope.
Yeah.
But I knew if I dropped my 50-footer down and it touched the bottom, I knew automatically that the block and tackle would make it each time. So it made for a nice, easy haul. Didn't really have to worry about shaking the vortex too much. But yeah, that worked really well in getting her up.
Oh, very good. So then, so from Broadway, we'll kind of head towards the back of the ship, Shaft Alley.
Shaft out. Yeah, actually, Chris, you want to start because you were pretty deep into that scenario. Put you in there if you want to talk about that one.
Yeah, the only issue with Shaft Alley, I didn't get to see where she was actually at. I could see Evan through the hole, and I could see Donnie in front of me. Once they got her package, though, it was just basically just, all right, where can we put a square peg in a round hole? And we just had to muscle her through because the one hole, there was literally that huge pipe in the way. You had all the ladders in the way. Then you had to turn around the corner, go through some more piping. And me and Ryan ended up picking her up one time. I think we were waist high, just trying to clear piping, just to get her past the Shaft Alleys. And again, we had to go through more obstacles. So that one was definitely challenging just because there was so much stuff to do. But there was a lot of muscle involved just because you had to move her so much. But that was pretty cool how we had to transition her both in an up and down, and not to mention just searching. Initially we went down, we were like, oh, this is going to be great. We'll just go down 2 lines. We'll move off from the sides. Not knowing we had to turn around and then climb up and then go down, back up. So yeah, that made it challenging having to do multiple fashions up and down. It was pretty fun. If we wouldn't have those 50 footers, that would have been a nightmare, honestly.
Yeah, that little spot where you went in and you had to ascend up and bring her down into that was definitely a tricky spot of bringing her down, but also simultaneously trying to get her horizontally through a hole was a tricky spot. And Chris, I think, was just like kind of holding her and pushing her into the hole towards me to get her through. That was definitely one of the tougher turns in the whole ship for sure.
I know where she was positioned. We didn't choose the shortest of people. Megan is not what you would call a short woman by any means. So the hole that she was in, she was definitely like crunched in there. Yeah. And then add in the fact that I'm standing next to her in there. And then we had the dragon lift up there. Donnie was 1 floor below me trying to position her through the hole. Not like I'm trying to plug this, but it's definitely not a hindrance to the whole fact that we had a bunch of clutches on us. Those clutches made it a dream to get her up and in position and then lower her down real easy.
Yeah, definitely had 5. We had 5 clutches.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
Yeah, we each had a clutch on us.
That's awesome. Yeah.
It made it real easy to get her in and then down the hole because I just double clutched her down. Made it really nice and easy with a lot of headroom to be able to get her up to where she needed to get through the hole.
That dragon lift, we never trained with that before. We that was very impressive.
We bought one now.
Yeah, we actually ended up, we got the department to buy one to play with because we're like, okay, we put that thing through the ringer.
And it's still intact.
It worked. So that was awesome.
Yeah, that's definitely a team favorite in confined space. That's for sure. And every team has commented on that ledge where the victim was, and how challenging it was to try to get them packaged in anything, let alone a dragon lift or whatever. It was definitely tight quarters in there.
Yeah.
Sure.
So, and speaking of tight quarters here, the very appropriately named, you're not going to like this.
Oh, I love that scenario. That was awesome. That was my highlight of the whole event.
That was the fuel cell,
tanks,
right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That to me, that was the highlight of the whole event. As the team leader, I wasn't always in the action. I tried to put myself kind of in the middle, in between my rescue and my the rigging team, and that one I put myself in a position where I actually had to do a lot of work, unbeknownst to me. But
yeah, we laugh because he tends to do that to himself a lot.
I just remember going through that first going through that horizontal section and going like, this is good. As I went through each part, I'm like, how are we going to get her out of here? This is getting worse and worse, and just thinking, okay, all right, we'll figure it out. Oh, we're going to go down. Okay, all right, we're going to go down again. Okay, all right, cool. All right, Donnie, Evan, go down there and go get her, and I guess I'll be here. And
again, a very small hole for a very not small person.
Yep.
And then stick a second one of us in there, and we had to figure out how to get her out of said hole. And then I understand that ladder was out of play, and I understand why, because it was a metal ladder with metal cables, all rust.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely not touching that thing if I didn't have to.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the ladder, like in the other scenarios, we had the ladders out of play just, to make it a little bit more challenging. But in the wing void, the ladders were legitimately out of play.
Yes. If you sneezed, I think that thing would fall.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I had placed myself after the first hole. It was, I think, about 10, 15 feet straight down.
Mhm.
I placed myself in that position, and then there was another hole that was offset, and I think it went down like 40 some feet. And my two rescuers were down there, and I set up the block and tackle. So I ended up having to haul basically by myself the 40 some feet, whatever it is, and run the belay at the same time. And I think the evaluator that was in there could hear me, and I would I'd haul twice and then reset the ASAP. Haul twice,
Mhm.
reset the ASAP. And it took a minute, but I was able to get it done. And just put myself in this situation.
Yeah, well, let's not talk about the unsung hero on this one. Jeff
Yes.
is the unsung hero on this, because when we actually got her through the holes, the very last thing, me and Donnie had to pick her up, shove her through that little hole, which he was the one catching her on the outside and relaying all of our equipment at the same time. That dude must have made 50 trips from that hole.
There was a lot of gear on that hole.
Yeah, I'd sometimes just throw gear at Jeff and just say, "Hey, here you go," and then it would
Magically
it would
disappear.
miss. It would be 10 feet in front of him, and he would just kind of look at me and give me the what the heck hands. And I'd be like, "I'm sorry, bro, got to figure it out."
Yeah, and a lot of the teams have commented too that they had really no idea what to expect, because all you saw was that horizontal hatch,
Mhm.
and then once you got inside, it just kept getting worse and worse and worse.
Yep. Oh yeah.
It lived up to its name.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden the fan turned off at some point. I heard the fan go off, and I'm on the radio, and I'm like, "Hey guys, is this a thing? Are we bailing? Is this a thing?" And then Jeff was able to fix that pretty quickly.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, because that was an integral part of the scenario to see how people would react. So,
Yep.
and it was kind of a mixed
Oh, yeah.
blessing, right? Because for a second you could actually hear yourself.
Yeah, it was nice
Yeah.
for a second. That was weird.
But unfortunately, it kind of brought with it some other problems. And this had to be one too, where going head to head with Pech, the finish lines you could kind of see in that offset hallway there. So it had to be challenging for Jeff when he was trying to get all the gear back into the square. I'm sure he was looking down that hallway. Huh?
We're right next to you, right?
I was.
Right next to you.
Yeah. Awesome. So, and I think we talked a little bit about this, but now, after we talked about some of the scenarios, so why do you think some of the scenarios were more challenging for some teams and, more just very straightforward for others?
Use of equipment and knowledge of the equipment used.
Oh,
I know on I'm sorry, what was the event where you had to pass a knot? That's very common for us, since we've all taken and are all very used to doing sprat moves.
Mhm.
And that's a day one sprat skill, where some other teams that aren't used to having to pass a knot, or don't have the normal use of a chest ascender and descenders, that's just not something common.
Yeah. I think it has to be if you want to do grip and you want to be if you want to be good at this, I think you have to take a bunch of the different disciplines, and you have to, cross pollinate. You got to take, your sprat skills, your, being good on rope. But then you also can't forget those NFPA skills, because, in sprat, you don't really learn anything about patient packaging or moving a patient or anything like that. And, you take that and you combine that with, confined space knowledge. If you are that well-rounded rescuer and have trained in all those different areas, I think that that somebody that is that way will just do better in the scenarios overall. And also, having been on a battleship before is helpful.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't hurt.
Yeah, you know what to expect.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a very unique environment to perform a rescue in, or to work in, that's for sure.
Well, I like to think, just like he was saying, in today's world, you don't have just dedicated people doing one thing. If you're like a hybrid rescuer, you should be able to adapt to any of those things. And having, background like we do, where we've built on the boat, we do sprat, we do entertainment, we do amusement park rides and regular fire and rescue stuff. It just makes you more rounded. More of a true hybrid rescuer than than the traditional fire department rescue team.
Well said. We've and that seems to be with both GRIMP North Americas, what we've noticed are the teams that had a really varied background and really could cherry pick the skills from all the different, aspects, if you will, of rope work, whether it be Sprat, NFPA, confined space, and even in some cases, like arborist or tower work. Those teams definitely did the best. Because when we saw teams that had like a strong axis background, but no confined space or none of that real tight vertical work, they were trying to adapt systems that they would normally use. And we found they had problems in the same way, not so much this GRIMP, but the first one back in 19, the fire departments that had no ascending experience or anything like that, they obviously had a very difficult time, dealing with some of those challenges. I really like the way you phrased, being able to, kind of pick and, having that very background, you're able to combine all that into a successful strategy to take care of these risks or hybrid. Yeah,
For sure.
There you go.
Yep.
Excellent. So what was your guys' best takeaway from the event?
What you got, Evan?
I think one of the best takeaways is to not confine ourselves to just one skill at a time, where we're going to have to not only play, because I think one of the things that we were originally thinking is that being the rescuer, I was going to go in and package the patient and get ready for rescue, where what it actually came down to was I was going to go in, make patient contact, package the patient, but then I might have also had to start doing some small time rigging to get them out of that spot. So that was one of my bigger takeaways, is that just because you're the rescuer doesn't mean that that's all you're doing. You have to be well-rounded and at least have knowledge of every other thing.
My biggest takeaway that I had, at least from the event, was just the camaraderie, just bringing everybody together from all over the world in this case, and meeting all the teams, and not just during the scenarios, the in between, talking to everybody, hey, how'd this event go, and afterwards, talking about it, and hanging out at the beer tent and with everybody. I just think it's great to get a bunch of like-minded people together to do something like this is awesome, and there should be more of it for sure.
So one of the things I liked was, we kind of spoke about it earlier, is we all know that we're good rescuers and good riggers and stuff, but like, where was the bar? So I think during this competition, even afterwards, we figured out, okay, we met the standard of what the most everybody nationally and worldwide does, and we were competitive in that nature. So that was a little bit more reassuring to me. But also, just coming back from the competition, we've all sat down and we're going to build a competition back at home now. We all decided, hey, we need to bring something like this back to our home area to try to make our rescuers better. Because a lot of times they lean on you, but it's our job to make them better. So I think just going through this competition, it gave us a drive to want to, at least for me, to help try to make my own department, the people I train with all the time better, so that they quit leaning on us as well.
Yeah, we're trying to put together kind of a small scaled version of this for the local fire departments in the Central Florida area, kind of a one-day event at one location. Very simple scenarios, because not everybody has the ability or resources to say, hey, 7 of us are going to go to the other side of the country, and or have the ability to get sponsorship. PMI was really nice in stepping up and getting us rope, and our union was able to help us out, getting us our hotel rooms, and Evan's company helped out a little bit with some equipment. But not everybody has that ability. So trying to do this on a takeaway for us was on a local level, to kind of bring, sort of that small competitive nature to an event that we're going to try to do in the Central Florida area coming up in January. So pretty awesome. Excited.
Wow. Well, and
I know we've been talking to Rich Armstrong about getting CMC out there as well, to see if you guys could have a little bit of a presence out at that competition.
Oh, yeah, that sounds like it'd really be a good time, especially with some of the areas that you guys have that you could have this competition in. I mean, such a unique backdrop.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Starting out small this year, and we'll see how it does. And then maybe, get some cool places in the future. That'd be awesome.
We also recognized when we were setting this competition up is the competitive nature in itself how we were really pushed for time for patient contact. I think that's something that the fire service is just now starting to understand, that we're in the rescue business and we need to make that more of a rapid intervention. And, we're so set on, hey, we got to build these great big systems, we got to do this and that. But in essence, you still got to do the rescue. So I think maybe bringing this competition home and help pushing our own people locally, that might set in stone a little bit more of the reality that, hey, you are a rescuer. We need to get this really going quick, but be proficient at the same time, like Evans was saying, be able to do multiple things in different areas. Because I think it's important, man. We need to get back to being, the badasses of the fire service.
Yeah, well said. That kind of, sometimes people are so worried about the technical aspects, right? We kind of forget why we're doing it, right?
Yeah, for sure.
We see that a lot in classes and in competitions. So it's good to remind people that. It's a very good point. So, and then kind of a little kind of an offshoot of that last question. So, did you learn something at this event that you're going to be able to use on the job?
For me, one of my biggest takeaway as far as that went is the amount of work that can be done by a small group of very dedicated people can do a very complicated scenario with, as long as, there's defined roles of like leadership and, people's, have, my rescuer guys, I didn't have to have a conversation with them. They would see the hole and they know that they're going in, and having those roles defined that way, but also to be able to be flexible with it. My rigging team, I really didn't have to have too much of a conversation. They know I need an anchor set up for 2 lines to get my guys down quickly, and then a way to get them up. But the amount of work that you can get done effectively with a small team is something that we're definitely going to be able to take away in multiple in the future here in different disciplines. Rope, confined space, all of that. What about you, Jeff? You take anything home for work from this?
Me, Chris, or Jeff?
Oh, sorry, Chris. Yeah, I'm looking and talking at the same time.
Honestly, I have to give this to Jeff. Bandoliers. That was something new for me, but I was telling Chris Bueller back home, I was telling him that setting up for a quick rescue and having your gear, like the way we had our gear was just perfect, man. The way we had it set up to where we pull a line off each side. We had quick bandoliers that we could just rig up really quick and drop off, and you could shed weight in a heartbeat, but still have enough equipment for you to do whatever you need to set up. I thought that was fantastic. And that was something new that I really hadn't trained on a lot of. So, I definitely have a whole different mindset as far as getting our rigging gear set up now, just because of that.
Carry a lot of gear, but be able to shed it quickly.
Which that had to be a benefit in some of the spaces like on Broadway and down in the wing void too, huh?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I would take stuff off, and then I would say, Jeff, here, you need take this, get it out of here, put it in the box. I don't need it.
Where it went.
I don't need this. I don't need a kootenai right now. Take it.
It's interesting. One of the teams came up with the idea. They started, when they were training and preparing, it's like we're hanging all this stuff off, more like a rope access technician, which is great for rope access, but it sure sucks for confined space.
Oh yeah.
And especially with those studs sticking up from around all those holes. So they came up with an idea of almost like an electrician's tool bucket.
Mm-hmm.
And they were putting all their stuff in that, and they were hanging it off their harness, dropping it between their legs. It's like just such a clean way to, to transport gear.
Just fill the bucket.
Yep. But the bandolier, I hadn't heard the bandolier idea. That's I like the bandolier idea too. That's slick.
And Jeff and I had the most gear on us between the 6 of us or 5 of us, and like Broadway. As soon as we got to Broadway, we had all that room. We immediately just shed it, hung it on the wall, and then if we needed it, it was right there. The best thing about it was you could sling it across the room into the square with no problem at all, and you didn't have to worry about trying to collect everything, reclip it to your waist belt, make sure it was already set up, and you could just discard it really quick, or if you needed something that was there. It definitely was helpful.
And it, with accountability too. We didn't want to leave any equipment around. So if you're not using it, clip it on the bandolier, and you knew it was there.
Oh,
and everybody's stuff is marked, and we'll find it later.
Yep.
it's been fun doing these podcasts because, like, we kind of talked about offline before the podcast. I was assigned to the A flight, so I didn't get a chance to work with you guys. So I did get a chance to see some of the cool things that people in the B flight did. So as we've been recording these podcasts, I picked up a lot of good stuff just talking with all you guys. So one of the good things about being an evaluator is you get to see many different ways to solve a problem. But did your evaluator did he come back with anything that were good takeaways from things he saw in his scenario?
Yeah, Daniel, he was one of the newer, probably the newer member of our team, and we kind of always he participated in all the training because we had him in the background because there was a big gap between when we signed up and when the event happened, and I said, if I pull a hammy, somebody's got to be able to step in in a moment's in a moment there. But so it was a great experience for him because he got to, and he was at the Highline scenario, so he got to see 12 different versions of that problem, and that is an event that you could see everything. It wasn't down in a hole where you only could see a small portion of it, but he got to see multiple people go through that Highline scenario, and that was definitely a fun one for sure. With the way the anchors and the rafters were positioned on that one, definitely made that one challenging. So it was probably cool to see everybody do it.
Flying munter hitch too.
The flying munter hitch,
Yeah.
you got a front seat view of that one.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. See, you even got to name that, right? I like that.
Yep.
The flying
The
munter
flying
hitch.
munter hitch.
Perfect.
Yeah. So would you recommend participating in an event like GRIMP to any other teams?
Oh, that of course. If you have the resources and the ability to do anything like this, I would say go for it. Reach out to all different people out there that have participated in these events before. There's a lot of resources out there, but if you have the ability to do that, and especially if it's maybe in your backyard or something at some point, this is an event. This is a great way to see where you are. Are you training the right way? Are your people performing to the standard that they need to protect the citizens? And in the end, that's our job. Is for the citizens out there to do it. This is probably the best way to see if the closest to real life as it can get, without, we have a live patient. The only difference is she, that medical emergency isn't actually happening, but you have a real patient that you're dealing with. So there are real consequences. So I'd say for sure. What do you think, Jeff?
Yeah, I was like Ryan, super nervous coming into this thing, but after the first couple events, he's kind of started to cool down, and we found our groove. But this is an excellent event. You just have to put yourself and your team out there because you're going up against 11 other teams that are really, really good at their job too. So you have to be on top of your game.
Chris, what do you think? Do you recommend this?
Yeah, absolutely. What Jeff and you just said, that's right on point, and I totally agree.
And I got to say, you guys have really put your money where your mouth is there because not only are you recommending people join the competition, you guys are actually sponsoring.
Yep,
That's
we're excited about it, and we're trying to make getting it all volunteers and trying to get any proceeds. We're gonna donate to the PTSD Center for Firefighters out here, and as well as Give Kids the World, which is the Make-A-Wish village for the Make-A-Wish kids coming down to see Disney World. So good competition for us to get better at our jobs, and then hopefully it'll support some good causes. So we're excited about it.
Oh.
Yep.
And definitely a win-win there. So anything else any of you guys want to add?
It was awesome. Thank you, CMC, for putting on this event, and we had a blast. This was from when I first heard about it up until this event, and COVID kind of definitely pushed it back a little bit. We were at least I was. I don't think they were thinking as much work as I was putting into it at the beginning, but it was everything that I hoped it would be. We had a great time, and we want to do more. Maybe another GRIMP in the future, maybe another country. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens for sure. Yeah, we just had a great time, and keep this up. There needs to be more of this for sure.
Met a lot of nice A lot of good people.
Oh yeah.
Type of background, skill levels. It was all around.
Yeah, the only advice I have for our viewers: don't drink with the Germans.
Yeah. Yeah, and the rest of the teams out there, everybody was awesome. Working with Peak, going head to head with them. The Ronin guys, I think we were set up right next to them. TNT, the Yes Ma'am, the German teams, Intervention, great group of guys. We were talking to them. Everybody was awesome, and it was really good just to all those like-minded people in the same place. We just had a great time, and we want more. Yeah.
Well, that's excellent. Well, hey, thanks very much, guys, for coming on and for doing the podcast here, and hopefully our listeners. There's a lot of good takeaways here. Bandoliers. That's
Bandoliers.
definitely one I wasn't expecting, but that's definitely a great takeaway there. So, but yeah. So thanks so much, and for our listeners, stay tuned for another CMC podcast.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you.